To talk about
Bob Casey.
Bob Casey, okay. You know that the Wellman Broad left his base to Casey? Yeah. It is now somewhere in a southern Illinois university or someplace like that where Casey left it. I got to know Casey not so much from his work at Condon's, where he was a regular for quite a while, but hearing him on the Muggsy Spanier Ragtime records, which were important to me in my formative years. I got a hold of those records in Denmark, and the first one I got was Mandy, Make Up Your Mind. Anyway, my Virgil, Nat Lorber, whom we talked about, also known as Face, was friendly with Case, as his friends called him, and also with a remarkable man named Robert Clairmont. Bob Clairmont had a pad right in the heart of the village. He was a friend of many jazz musicians, and he has a place in jazz history because he was a sponsor, the major sponsor of W.C. Handy's Carnegie Hall concert in the late 20s, where Yamacraw was presented, among other things. Clairmont sponsored that. How come? He was not a rich kid. He was just, as a very young man, he was on the beach somewhere, and there was a man who was swimming out and obviously got himself in trouble, in serious trouble, and was drowning, and Bob jumped in and swam out and rescued this guy and gave him whatchamacallit.
Resuscitation.
Yeah. It turned out that this man he had rescued was a multi-millionaire who just decided to give Bob a substantial amount of money, which made it possible for Bob really to live the rest of his life on that kind of, let's call it a pension. And that's how come he was able to sponsor Handy's concert. He was obviously a great fan of jazz, very knowledgeable about friendly. He could tell you Jack Purvis stories, all kinds of things. And his home in the village, it was really nice. It was like a small building. It was not one of those big apartment buildings. And he had the top floor, and he had a monthly get-together, and Nat introduced me to him. And there would be older musicians. There would also be retired Earl Carroll Vanity's girls. Amazing. And that's where I met Bob Casey. He was part of that group. And Clairmont had, there were interesting stories, and Casey, of course, also was. He was a really exceptional bass player. That's why would Wellman Broad leave him his instrument? You can hear on those many records that he made just how good he is. He is absolutely correct. And somebody who was one of the greatest bass players himself, George Duvivier, made note of that. George was a severe critic of bassists, but he judged them, on record. He liked Artie Bernstein, he liked Bob Casey. Those were really good players. And Casey was a delightful guy. He was just a wonderful guy. And those evenings at Clairmont, or mornings went into mourning. Yeah. Casey is on, there's some really nice recordings on a label called Black and White. I forget who the guy was who started that. Like most of the guys who had those small labels, he was Jewish, he had a Jewish name, I can't remember it. But there was that's a beautiful session with Rod Kless, whom I never got to know because he died too soon. Rod Kless, Sterling Bowes, James P. Johnson, great James P. Johnson playing, Bob Casey. Forget who the drummer is.
There is no drummer.
Hmm?
There is no drummer.
There's no drummer, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And I think Case is also on the same label. There's Mesro Trio and some other stuff. But those, you know, I mean, he made a lot of records, and he was a fixture at Condon's, and he had such a great beat, great time, and all correct. I did when he passed, when I was still doing Jazz from the Archives on BGO, I did a show on him, and I got a great compliment, which was touching, from a lady I didn't know who got a hold of me. She called me at the Institute. She was his girlfriend, and she said that I did a great job, and
That's nice.